Welcome everybody, welcome back. We are analyzing games. I thought, rather than, of course, like putting in the title, I wouldn't want to like get any new viewers or anything. We might choose one of the candidates' games and go over that. In addition to the subscriber games for today, there's been a lull in the stream lately. Not as many players, not as many viewers, not as many submissions, but there's still enough to stay in business. I just thought we add at some point we'll do a candidates game, one of the games. I love like ridiculous people like Chess Network chooses the only obvious game, Caruana Nakamura, to go over that for a blog. Like, dude, I'm sorry, it's been analyzed by like 17 million different people at this point. Pick a more original game to go over. Why don't you? ChatGPT, which game will get me the most viewers if I put it on my YouTube channel? Okay, so we got Chapter 1. This is a game submitted to me from from Sun Prism. The second one is Redusa against Camel Culture from Redusa, and the third one is from former viewer who's been muted, whose name shall not be uttered until he's been reinstated, and then the fourth one. Well, we'll do a candidates game. Maybe we'll get some more submissions. And what's up, Sun Prism? You should be a subscriber. We got 20 gift subs yesterday from Zenchess and Zenchess and Zenchess as an anonymous Zenchess. But you weren't one of the lucky ones, apparently. Infinite Crafting Sus is also new here. I don't know if they're still here, but they were here and said hi. Hello, Infinite Crafting Sus, with the amusing name. Alright, Sun Prism has to become a subscriber again. And then we'll posthumously analyze your game, regardless of whether or not you're a subscriber. Posthumorously, Move 11 is lurking. Chat band person is lurking. Zeus is a subscriber. They got a lucky gift sub. Man, this is another French. We've seen this before. Uber Driver's a subscriber. Yeah, Prime subscriber. Always deploy so that the right oblique can be readily established in case the objective plane remains. It sounds like instructions for putting together an IKEA furniture piece. Very nice. Very interesting. All right. Paratroopers or IKEA furniture? Can you do a simul? I can do a simul, but I won't because that's Sunday. That's a different stream. Unless someone's going to donate like $500 or something, I can be persuaded to do anything for enough money. Although not really motivated by money, to be honest, it probably would motivate me at some point. Yeah, people seem to love gifting the subs. I wish. Sun Prism. Okay, I think that's the wrong game. Alright, let me check. No, I think you sent me the wrong game. No, I got it now. Why did I have the wrong game? That is weird. Alright, I got it. How did I get the wrong game in there? That's odd. Okay, my studies. Welcome everybody to the live stream. Add a new chapter. Alright, paste here. There, we're going to substitute that in and delete that one. Exciting here, isn't it? Sun Prism with the white pieces. Alright, we got Sun Prism. No Acerbate, who's missing. You want to go hunt him down, Uber driver? How much would it cost to drive you to Las Vegas? Dude, Uber driver, heard a lot of rideshare drivers are quitting because of high gas prices. Is that true? He's like the same age as you. Can you do a simul, please, again? No. No. Alright, $4 a gallon. Nice. No land invasion announcement yet, but I know that some people are putting some money on that, on special informed gamblers are betting on land invasion on betting sites. Alright. This guy has gotta be timed out. Alright, your chat banned. Warn him. Again, warn him. You're gonna be warned. Warned. For a reason. Spamming. Being annoying, dude. Alright. So anyways, what do I do here? I can warn someone before I ban them. You're very close to getting banned. I can now warn them first. Damn, this is like unusable, man. This is unusable. Wow. I cannot use this. Wow. Bro, okay. It just goes below my mouse, my screen. I can't use this feature. Bro, timeout. Let's just do timeout. I'll just time him out. Alright, managed to gain 20 points in this tournament. Was the lowest rated in the section. This is Sung Prism on Sung Prism. 19 viewers, that must be bots. What's up, guys? So, we got a bunch of subscriber, quote-unquote, subscriber Sung Prism submissions, but we also have, maybe a game from the candidates, one of my games, some other stuff, anonymous people who are banned or muted. Lifetime mute. Alright, let's get started. So, Sung Prism is first. He's white, he said he gained 20 points. Are these like ES? Yes, yeah. ECF? ESCF. ECF ratings? Or FIDE, ECF. So, we are playing white and you're playing E4. Black plays C5. Knight of 3. Knight C6. And it's a Rossalimo. Rossalimo Sicilian. And your opponent played G6. Now, of course, taking is an option, but it's not really the main move. It's interesting if you look at statistics. Taking it has a very good score. C3 has a good score as well, but castless is by far the main move. Bishop G7, and now, again, you have a choice. You can always take. Rook E1 is the main move. Rook E1 and C3. So, I play this opening. I'm not an expert. Sometimes I play the Rossalimo. I mean, for the most part in Blitz. Rook E1 is main. Our director. Can you look at this game? Turkey. 40th Olympiad. Oh, I remember that. I was in the States in 2013 after that Olympiad. Alright, let's see. I was talking to a Turkish guy who was there for the Istanbul Olympiad 2012. Does that make sense? Analysis here. Add a new chapter. Not a new game, but that's fine. Alright, so back to game 1. Bishop G7. C3 is interesting. One advantage of Rook E1 when you play this move, yeah, b4. b4 is usually not played, recommended after e5, Uber driver. Yeah, you don't want to play b4 before he plays e5, otherwise you lose your rook on a1. But rook e1 has another benefit. Besides just looking like the Roy Lopez, the move makes it possible for the bishop to drop back to f1 in some variations. So this is a minor point, but it can be useful. But more importantly, I think rook e1 is also inherently linked to lines where you're going to push e5, and it overprotects, and so you can take on c6 and push e5, and the rook helps protect e5. It's a generally useful move. Now black plays e5, and you can see in the opening explorer that knight f6 is slightly more common. Although e5 is also a main variation. E5 was, as Uber Driver would surely point out, played in Fischer-Spassky 2. 1992. I remember like it was yesterday. E5, and now of course, yeah, b4 is a move here, but it's not the main move. It does have a decent score, but also black has a fairly high winning percentage. I mean, I don't know. It's weird that bishop takes c6 is overwhelmingly the favorite here, because I would think, I had a game with this position the other day. I think I played c3. I would think like c3 would be more popular, but it's like kind of now or never for doubling the pawns. I mean, now the knight's coming to e7, and it's going to support the other knight. So if you want to double black's pawns, this is your last chance. Alternatively, you can do that Fischer wing gambit thing, which Big Bobby did then. Alright, e5, c3. Little Bobby. Who's Little Bobby? If there's a Big Bobby, there should be a Little Bobby. So c3, knight on g to e7, and now h3, playing like it's a Roy Lopez. But unsurprisingly, if we look at the opening explorer, h3 is not a very common move. Can you tell us, boys and girls, why h3 is not a very common move here? Because, okay, there's no bishop, threatening to go to g4, and there's no knight that can go to g4. So, essentially, there's really no reason to play h3. Sung Prism is pretending he's playing the Roy Lopez or something, So if we rule out h3 as a serious move, the other day I had, again, a similar position, but I think a better version, where I can't help feeling like d3 is really passive too. Knight a3 is an interesting move. You probably still have b4, although now it's different. Now it's different because this pawn is on c3. So not anymore. Knight a3, d4. d4 is a known variation. d4, cd4, cd4, ed4, knight a3. I remember this. d4, cd4, cd4, ed4, or knight takes c4, knight takes c4, ed4, and then white will surround or attempt to surround that pawn with usually knight a3 and knight c2, something like that. It will eventually get the pawn back after temporarily sacrificing it. It doesn't lose a pawn, so I presume. It sacrifices the pawn temporarily. You lose a pawn, but you gain a new friend. No, I mean, this is not a move you want to play if you don't know the theory. I think I would be in agreement. I've seen the move, analyzed a little bit and played in some fairly high-level games. This is just a move that's, logical. D3 is quiet and slow, very slow. And h3, your move is similar to d3. But of course, at least with h3, you retain the ability to play d4. I mean, honestly, you have a trap here. If black goes like d6, I think now you have a much stronger... You would have a much stronger version of that pawn sacrifice line. You know, so you could almost trick him into doing that. But black's not going to play d6 if they're a strong player. You know, so h3 isn't great, but there really is no great move for white, to be honest. The best there is d4, and white even has a losing score there. This is unbelievable. The computer says black is already better by 0.1. You know, ultimately, I guess the last move, like the c3, isn't considered best. You have to, I guess you have to take and play this line after d takes d3. My problem with this position, though, you know, honestly, something I don't completely understand is like, why is our rook on e1? I mean, why and how does this even help us in this kind of position? I mean, maybe it could discourage f5, but I don't think that rook e1 is really that in tune with, you know, taking on c6. So, all right, I think your play is very logical until h3, which isn't necessary. Black castles now, and now you play d3. You're going to transpose to some kind of quiet variation now. Someone here played bishop f1, Kovac Gabor, who's a very strong player, albeit an amateur. And knight a3 was also played. This move is also okay. I would think it might still be possible to sacrifice the pawn temporarily. I mean, there are lines like this type of thing where, you know, he could take the pawn without compromising his structure. But there are a lot of weaknesses in black's position. Ultimately, maybe this isn't the greatest Smith-Morra ever, but it's something like a Smith-Morra. So, I think usually black will take with the pawn, you know, to keep your knight from coming to a good square. And then we go around, you know, trying to surround it. But this is not a very good version of d4. It's probably a little bit too late for that. So, castles. Kovac Gabor is just making this shit up against the 2100. Knight a3 is a reasonable move. I think probably I would go with knight a3. But I would agree with the computer that black is a tiny bit better. Yeah, g4. Exactly, Uber driver. Instead of g4, just resign immediately. Well, no, I mean, seriously, like, if you play bishop f1, you're basically playing a King's Indian attack. And you could transfer to any kind of sort of normal King's Indian attack. This is a reasonable move. You know, we're basically like black. Anyway, d3 quiet. Now the bishop will come back to a4 and c2. You have a passive position. It's not great. Black can play more actively trying to play d5, by the way. But that's also more dangerous. h6 is a normal move here. Controlling the g5 square prophylactically, I like that. That's reasonable. Plays d6, this is also reasonable. And now bishop e3. Yeah, I just think that this move looks like you're walking into f5, f4. Though maybe black can't maybe black can't play it right away. Maybe it's a little bit dangerous. Let's calculate now. But let's say you play bishop e3, which is the game move. Are you going to get, I mean, are they going to rip you a new one here with f5, f4? Someone actually won a game with f5. I mean, the thing is f5, bishop c4 check, king h8, knight g5, f4. Here's a grandmaster with black losing to a 2270. Your bishop gets sent back. And now black plays d5. E takes d5. Knight takes d5. we've lost a lot of time. And oh, this is Grandmaster playing black and won the game. So yeah, I don't like bishop e3. It's too late for that. So the good question as to what you should do. Pray to your god, whoever that may be. f5, the kingside attack is like coming, and there's not a lot you can do about it. Just brace yourself for black getting an attack on the kingside, I would say. Uberdrive is recommending knight h2. A manly man's move. No, in all seriousness, I think, the only thing to do here is probably knight d2. Belia versus Gukesh. There's a couple of games. White has managed to score 50% here. Yeah, the game Gukesh played in 2019. It's funny that Gukesh was 25-20 and now he's world champion. He was 25-20 in 2019. H6, yeah, knight a3 is also possible, but knight d2 maybe coming here is useful defensively. H6, knight f1. Belia Gukesh. I beat Belia at the world senior, but he drew Gukesh. So who's better, me or Gukesh? You guys, I've played 6 people in the I played 6 games against people in the candidates tournaments. I was thinking about this today. My score is, if you count both candidates, women's and men's, I have 6 games against six classical games against people who are playing in the candidates tournaments. 5 Uber driver would be proud. 5 draws and a loss. That's Sladgy's candidates participants personal score. 5 draws. All right, so a lot of draws is good, right, Uber driver? All right, so bishop e3 doesn't look right. You're going to get just pummeled by f5, f4. And the thing is that it's hard to see that line that Jakubiak played. A lot of people are unlikely to go for f5 right away. Yeah, I'm not in the candidates due to my lack of consistency. h6 is the move I would expect here. But black plays a6. Okay, a6 isn't bad. I don't think it's bad. Black should play bishop a4. That way you have option. Well, no, I mean, you should play bishop a4 because you don't want to get hit by knight a5. So bishop a4. Now black plays b5. I personally feel like black's playing on the wrong side. Black should be playing on the king side, not on the queen side. Black's trying to do too much. It's from Curb Your Enthusiasm. DTM. You're doing too much. Pick, what are you going to, queen side, king side, what are you doing, bro? Which side? Are we going to play everywhere? Black's going to play everywhere here. b5, and now bishop c2. To be honest, TBH, you could play DTM. TBH, you could play against this DTM, this doing too much, with bishop e3 provoking knight a5. Nebelshina against Buksha played the same as you, bishop c2. Exciting move. No, you play bishop e3. Okay. No, it's interesting. I don't think bishop c2 is automatic. I don't think that this is necessarily wrong to play bishop e3. Of course, black can play knight a5, but I mean, is it even a good move? Because black's already gone in c5, like, not necessary. Okay. Now, black continues to play on the queen side with the weird move queen b6. So again, I think h6 is consistent here. But it looks like, we're getting close to the point where you might be able to consider, I stress the word might, be able to consider playing d4. If he farts around anymore. Black plays the very awkward move queen b6, ostensibly to control d4, right? He's trying to fight you to like prevent you from playing d4 instead of doing his own thing. Well, now he can't play f5, and you know, I think that maybe knight a5 would be something more consistent than what Black does in this game. There's something very awkward about putting the queen on b6 opposite your bishop on e3. He's going to need to play king h8. So now knight on bd2, bishop b7, and that was a nice diagonal, by the way. I just want to point this out. A lot of times when you're playing the black side of the Sicilian, or in this case, you know, a Ruy Lopez-like position with Black, it's kind of like we had a good diagonal already for that bishop. So the decision to put it on b7, you know, it's kind of like, well, I don't know. You know, I mean, is it even worth it? Oftentimes white can weaken the queenside pawns with like a4 and the Ruy Lopez. Let's see. Well, that's what you did. You played a4. Not that strong here, honestly, because everything's under control. Everything's defended on black side of the board. Now h6, okay? And now you played bishop c2, which I think is maybe connected to some ideas of b4. But bishop c2 is really a little scary because black can play f5. So I think, you know, we got to ask the obvious question here. I mean, if he plays f5, what are you going to do? You're about to get your bishop trapped with f4. This looks pretty ugly. Oh, a2. Right. No, I mean a2. a2 makes sense. You shouldn't let him play f5 right away. You know, I think, yeah, that's... He's going to play it anyway, though. He's going to get in king h8 and f5. Or maybe... I think you're ultimately in trouble. You're going to have to answer to this f5, f4. b4 is nice, but it doesn't do anything, really. And I think you're kind of in trouble against f5, f4. So yeah, I agree. Like bishop a2, but probably king moves, and you're still facing the same threat anyway. It's not going to go away, and like g4 is not a serious option. I don't think that g4 is a serious option. I mean, Uber Driver can joke about it and stuff, but probably would speed up your demise. But you don't have any play here. You have no answer to f5, f4. Now he's like, okay, queen c7, retreating against a non-existent threat. Knight f1, a natural move, but you know, this way your bishop can move back. Rook a d8, like over-preparing. Now he has d5 as well as f5. A takes b, okay, it doesn't matter. There's nothing on the a file. Knight g3, what are we going to do when he plays f5? I see. So you're going to put your knight on h5. So f5 takes knight h5. And that's what happened in the game. But there's a couple questions. You still have bishop b3 at some point. You ostensibly it looks really bad. This pawn chain is very flexible, well played by black. E takes f. Of course, knight takes, playable, but it doesn't look great, so he takes to the pawn. You go here. That's the one hole in his position. Now he can play f4, which he does. Yeah, but you know, now that you look at it, scary as his pawns are, right? This is under surveillance. As scary as his pawns are, what's really scary is this diagonal for you against h7. Yeah, king h7, as we can see now, king h7 would be worse because of that diagonal. But I'm not convinced Yeah, but I mean, bishop h8 drops the h6 pawn, so this is not really an option. So the only other option is for black to hold off. Personally, I think rook d8 was kind of a weird move, you know? Why did he take a timeout to play rook d8? I mean, is he playing for d5 or f5 here? You know, like, make up your mind. So this move, I said, over-preparing. If you want to play f5, play f5. Play it now. Play it now, bro. Why didn't he play it now? Play it again, Sam. Play it before your knight gets to g3. Now what are you going to do? That's a problem. No, I mean, this... You could play like bishop b3 check and hope chess. How would this work? Like king h7 takes, pawn takes, knight g5 check takes here. Even this probably doesn't work. Bishop takes. Oh look, nothing can defend that. It does work. That's funny. You might have some sort of hope chess sort of thing there. But I mean, at this point, black could even take with a knight. Okay, you're in the game, though. You have some squares. So that's true. You have this bishop e3 check. King h8, I guess, would be best for him. Takes. And if he takes with the pawn, you have similar ideas like knight h4 and queen h5. It's not quite as good as knight to g5. You could play knight to g5 anyway. Damn, maybe this is actually good. Let's check with the engine. Black has a defense. Wow, he has a defense there, although it takes balls to play this kind of position. Knight d8 holds everything, and black is better. I mean, I just think that there's a couple of things that are going on in this game that were a little bit weird. Black, first of all, playing the whole b5, bishop b7 thing, and then rook d8, you know, he's trying to do too many different things. Okay, ab5, knight g3, f5 takes, knight, doop, doop, f4. Okay, now, you don't have an obligation to take on g7, but if you don't, he can play bishop h8. And it doesn't look like there's any sort of sacrifice here. And you don't want to play bishop e3 because this diagonal looks kind of interesting already. So yeah, I guess it's understandable that you took the bishop. It's a pawn now, but it's a good pawn. Knight g7, king g7, bishop c1. And so now you have this can opener thing with d4. This is an interesting position. You know, he has the pawn clamp here to offset, you know, almost all of black's pawns are on dark squares, which is good. He can offset your dark square bishop. He could go like knight g6 or something. But you're going to go here, here. How are you going to get to the light squares? Queen d3. Yeah, right. So the d4 is your main idea. The cowboy on b7 is scary. The cowboy, lonesome dove. That's more like, yeah, lonesome dove. That bishop by itself, Uber Driver, is, first of all, it belonged on c8. It's scary only if it has support and coordination with the other pieces. In and of itself, it's not dangerous really at all. You know, that's the problem for black. Really, you know, that bishop would have been quite useful actually, defending this diagonal. It's nice, you know, that's nice, but he needs a rook on g8 and then other stuff too. So in the meantime, white can blow up the center and get like queen d3 and start checkmating black on those light squares that aren't defended. So black plays knight g6. Yeah, you've got no other options really but to try to open it with d4. But I don't know if knight g6 was the right idea. He could play knight f5, for example. Maybe this is better. I mean, What are you going to do? If he clamps down on d4 even more, now with like literally everything. Nurse, clamp. Yeah. I mean, oftentimes the best thing you can do in that kind of situation is play it anyway, right? Well, you could play it anyway. And then, you could get in d4 because you can like take, for example, there. And then recapture. And then, as Superdriver said, the Cowboys are scary. Have you seen the Redskins? But this is going to be a real shit show, If we come down to this, where the Cowboy is scary, and this coming in here, the rodeo on c2, like your stuff looks a little too slow, to be honest. But maybe you have just enough. Knight d3. This guy on b7 is quite strong. It's going to be very sharp there. So yeah, he makes a huge mistake. He should have played knight f5. He plays knight g6. You played d4. So you basically get this in. You get this in for free. If the position just explodes open, your dark square bishop is going to become a decent piece. Although for now it's really shut down. This bishop is still not. It's still not really guaranteed to do anything. And now black reacts quite passively. But I can understand that wanting to open up the position for your dark square bishop. If he takes here, what does he really gain from that? Well, maybe knight c2. I mean knight b4. Let's say knight b4 for a second here. You go bishop b1. You go Slavia. This looks okay. So again, I don't think he benefits from exchanging, but what should he do? Well, he doesn't really have a good plan now. This is extremely passive. All right, I accept it though. It's probably not a bad move. And now you took on e5, but you don't have an obligation to do that. You're opening the d file. Okay, so you figure you can afford to open the d file. Put your queen on e2. That's what happens. Takes. Oh no, he doesn't take. Wow. Why does he not recapture? Well, he has to take with the pawn. Ask yourself a question. Queen e2. b5. Okay, but I mean, that's like out of play. Here, true. But, I mean, is black lost? Potentially losing this pawn on e5? Well, I mean, I guess if you had to, you could give up your cowboy, right? Bishop takes f3. 2 knights versus 2 bishops. This bishop isn't looking that great, I agree white is better. Black is like overextended here, but you're playing with only 1 bishop, not 2. Plus 1.5. Probably not an easy win. But he just like, he just like gives you the central pawn. That's insane. That's worse than plus 1.5. That's just like resigning. I'd rather give you the cowboy. He gave you a crushing central pawn for free. It's the Albin. Yeah, I mean, that's it, dude. Game over, man. Game over. He's not going anywhere. This isn't going anywhere. d4 isn't going anywhere. You're just up a crushing central pawn. c4, another, horrible move. Horrible. Yeah, he totally came unglued. He's 2077. Jesus, man. Yeah, he just totally came unglued. e6. Have you seen my crushing passed pawn lately? That was weird. He played pretty well and then just melted down like a 1400. Now g3. This is really... So confident, you know. What are you going to do to me? Rook takes. He's got nothing. Knight f4. Knight f4, I said. So knight f4 does like nothing, right? Here, here. And you're even attacking the rook on f6. It's totally over. Yeah, that was a weird game. You know, he just like, I don't know what happened. He just melted completely. I mean, in that position when he played d5, sorry, knight on cd7. Watch this. It's plus 1.2. If he recaptures, it's plus 1.2. 1.4. Queen e2. Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, you take the knight on f3. The computer finds other defenses. The super bishop defense. Really weird. Okay, Redusa is next. Thanks, Sun Prism. Good game. Kind of. Your openings are better to be bad at the opening and good at the middle game, though, honestly. Okay. Oh, this is from White side. All right. So this is Camel Culture played in our tournament yesterday. Uber Driver, where were you? You played? You didn't make a real splash yesterday. Uber Driver was off. Uber Driver was off siphoning gas out of random cars he found on the side of the road. All right. In his free time, he siphons gas out of random cars. That's going to become a thing now. People like stealing gas from other people's cars and shit, right? It's like an apocalyptic future. Redusa versus Camel Slutcher. So d4, d5, and then c4, d takes c4. We had a little discussion yesterday about the Queen's Gambit Accepted. Okay, Fabi didn't really play a Queen's Gambit Accepted. He played a sort of Marshall, like delayed, deferred Queen's Gambit Accepted that transposed to the Queen's Gambit Accepted. But my question, yeah, it still comes back to the difference between the Queen's Gambit Declined and the Queen's Gambit Accepted is that it's slightly less solid, but you don't feel like you're suffocating as much, you know? You have a little more freedom of movement, but less safety. Yeah, your last game against Camel Culture was not good, Uber Driver. Alright, d takes c4. You made the black side of the French look like bad Slav. e3. I like this Queen's Gambit Accepted old variation. Yeah. That's written on stone tablets. Okay, so Camel Culture plays the recommended Bluegi. Well, everybody, a lot of people play this. It's basically an exchange. It's a transposition into an exchange French Godiva variation. But honestly, I don't know if it's necessarily better. This is what Bluegi recommends with his Queen's Gambit book that he wrote with his friend. What is that IM who wrote the Queen's Gambit book with Bluegi? Some old IM from New York City. I can never place his name. It's a player that hasn't played in years. Anyway, e5, bishop takes c4. You know, I wonder if anyone actually takes on e5. I was just thinking, like, you know, maybe this is something that might not be that bad for White, although White's lost 4 games because they're like, well, even Rogozenko lost. Carlo Magno. Queen takes d1 check, king takes d1. How bad is this endgame? Knight c6. Let's see what the engine says. It's bad. Wow. It's really bad. Negative 0.5. Oof. Far worse than I thought it would be. That's amazingly bad. Oh, jeez. You would think it wouldn't be that bad. Okay, so can you play knight f3? I remember seeing something interesting somewhere not that long ago. This might be a trickier line. There's some crazy stuff involving this knight c6. Check this out. Hubner. Knight c6, bishop takes c4, e4, knight fd2, even queen b3 is a move. Aronian Mamadarov. Yeah. You might want to look into this if you're seriously playing this line. Bishop takes e4 is by far the most common move. But yeah, I think that maybe alternatives should be considered. You can see that knight c3 has been played as well. That's about all your options. You can either play knight f3, bishop c4, knight c3. So bishop c4, main move. I've played this position many times. Now on takes, you have this alternative here to play knight f3. It's like a gambit. I believe that I looked at this, but I don't remember why. But because someone on Sound played this line with black. We had some games and the simuls. Knight f3 could transpose to the other variation. Knight f3, they go bishop b4 check. And this is a funny position. King f1 is not necessarily the best move. Let's check with the engine. Okay, watch this. So, everybody thinks it's cool to play king f1, but it turns out that bishop t2 is the better move. Well, not everybody thinks it's cool, but it looks cool to play king f1. I mean, theoretically, you could play king e2, right? Alright, so bishop d2, bishop takes d2 check, queen takes. We can recapture here with check. If black tries to be greedy, you have bishop takes f7 check, king e7, queen takes d8 check, king takes d8. Here's Campora against Moreno Javier, Argentina. Yo, this is an interesting line. I don't think that that's the best for black, though. He should develop. Anyway, these are alternatives for you. Right? So you played the main line. E takes d, bishop d6. This is an important move for black. This is like the Dlugi came out 2 years ago, right? Dlugi's book on the Queen's Gambit Accepted. I don't have it, but there's not every day that a book comes out. Not many people play the Queen's Gambit Accepted on a high level. I mean, Dlugi's kind of an expert. So this is the best move for black. I know it's confirmed by computers. Knight f3. Queen e7 check is possible, but I suspect that it shouldn't be that great. Seriously, if queen e7 check, king d2 now. No, seriously, queen e2 is lame, so you have to play bishop e3. Don't do stuff like this, because it looks like Jackson Whip's Showalter would kick your ass here. Castles, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes e3 check. You end up looking like Uber driver if you do something like that. Knight f3, knight f6, castles, castles, and now h3. We might get Sun Prism here. You want to check? What do you mean check? You want to do this check here? Yeah, it's a move. It's lame though. I mean, I would imagine it's kind of lame. So you can do the same thing. I don't believe this is serious. I just don't believe this is serious. So black has 2 moves. Is it better to play queen e7 or bishop e7? So apparently queen e7 is clearly better according to the engine. We play an endgame. Black can also take with the king. Interestingly, king takes is the computer's lesser favorite. Bishop takes with the ability to go back to d8. Well, I think, like, you know, the problem here is that it's very technical, and white has a tiny advantage. It's funny, though, this is the move the engine actually likes best. Kenkin versus Berkesh, 2012. Krasimir Rusev. Black has not scored too well here. This is sort of tedious. Knight g5. King d7. Yevgeny Romanov. Great guy. So that's a very technical variation if you want to play that, but it certainly wouldn't be a good choice for a lot of players, including Redusa. This is only for technical players. Not to follow the computer analysis, Iatan. You should not just do what the computer says, because it doesn't work for everybody. Some people play better with the pieces on. So castles. Now h3 I thought would probably be the main move. That's what I've played mostly. But the only thing is, if you delay h3, black might play bishop g4. Black is never better till they are. So that's what happened. You play knight c3 and they play bishop g4. Knight c6 is fine. That's what probably someone on sound would play. I don't think like Lugi is going to recommend bishop g4 in his book. This is both a Queen's Gambit accepted and an exchange French, you know. And I think it can even obviously happen by the Petrov as well. There's like 3 different openings. Bishop g4 is like a kind of, I don't know, safe move that simplifies, but you're making a concession. This happened in a game at a tournament I played in. It was Farago Ivan against Zentai Peter in an IM tournament I played like 5 years ago, before Farago died. Ivan used to play this line with white, and actually, does that make sense? Yeah, how did it happen? Oh yeah, it must have been, it was the same thing. It was a Queen's Gambit accepted. So Ivan was white, and he's a very solid player, but black just wanted a draw, so he went for this. h3, takes, knight c6, and now the best you have is bishop e3. Really surprised here that there's so few games. So a whole bunch of people that play bishop h. I don't know anything about bishop h5. Wow. But as you can see, like, black has almost never won a single game. Yeah, I am not playing bishop h5. I don't think so. g4, white has the initiative. Black did apparently win a couple of games, but for the most part, looks kind of random. Those black wins are very rare. So the way the camel culture played is very simple. Bishop takes f3, queen f3, knight c6, bishop e3. And now a strange move by black. A6 through theoretical novelty. A6? Do we have time for that? Black's giving up the late square bishop. Yeah, I like white here. The isolated pawn is a strength more than a weakness. And what does black have really for compensation? But it is hard to say. Like, black has no active plan. Can I play this? Give you the b7 pawn? And play like rook b8? And grab this pawn on b2? Something like that? Terrible. Just the pawn down. Yeah, there's one game here with queen d7. Grandmaster Michalik. No? No, this is another random game. So Michalik played rook b8. That's also Potkin Michalik, 2016. Also very unpromising for black. I guess the best of the bad options. This casts out on the whole plan, though. You know, I don't think that black should play bishop g4. I mean, clearly knight c6 is better. There's also h6 with the idea of bishop f5. That's about it, though. You know, this is the main move. Then h3, and then h6. This is the mainline position. But knight c3, he should probably just play knight c6. Okay, here, interesting. h3 takes, knight c6, bishop e3. Now, what can black do, though? Rook b8 is his best move. I mean, his position sucks. So he played instead a6, preventing bishop e5, preventing knight b5. Okay, it's a move. It may not be that bad. And now white's turn, rook a d1. And now h6. But this is a little Basmania going on here. Normally black plays h6 to support like bishop f5 falling back to h7. Ed leg breaker. McHugh, who once was on my stream, but I think he doesn't have time. A master from Connecticut used to play this all the time with black, these lines. Okay, h6. The problem with h6 is now there's sacrifices on h6. You stop bishop g5, though at what price? White plays a3. That's a very sensible move. Taking away b4 square, meeting knight a5 with bishop a2 in some lines, and then rook e8. Hello? Man, camel culture not in a good place here. And then now white really went nuts. I'm sure that g4 is fine, it's playable, but it feels like there has to be something better. Well, you have a lot of options, honestly. A prophylactic move might be good. You can always play bishop a2. This is kind of lame. Even doubling, I was looking at some ideas like this. There'd be funny lines, like imagine some sort of fork where these pieces could be affected. Not really easy to do that. I was thinking like rook d3, rook d1. Looks strange as that looks, it might be an interesting idea. Okay, rook e8 looks awkward. g4, get out your cave. Get out your caveman weapons. Yeah, I like bishop a2. Because you have the idea to come to this diagonal as well. G4 is a little too caveman. But sometimes primitive is effective. Camel Culture's position is so bad, there's almost nothing he can do. So he plays bishop e7 and h4. Primitive and effective with a crushing threat of g5. So he goes back, white plays g5, and black is basically lost because of the threat of g6. hg5, hg5, 98, g6. Oof. Well, I feel better now because I lost in like 10 moves to Camel Culture in a very stupid way. So Redusa made him pay. And now, what can black do? He played knight d6. Mate is unavoidable. Yeah. You kind of need the knight. You kind of need the knight to defend h7. Oh no. Alright. Good game, Redusa. Next up, friends, families, countrymen. The muted ones. There's a muted one here playing black. Bishop g4 not good. It's better once it's best to wait with bishop g4 until your knight's on c6. I think I misspoke when I talked about the game from the IM tournament I played in. I'm pretty sure that Farago and Zentai didn't have that exact position. In the Farago-Zentai game, black had already played knight c6. White must have had another move in, like rook e1, and then black played bishop g4. Because there was a sequence of exchanges. There was some sort of weird sequence of exchanges. Anyway. Alright, so Alan Pleasance versus the muted one. Richie Smith. Richie Smith with I, no E. d4, knight f6, knight f3, and then now black is playing e6, very solid. And white plays the Mr. Coffee attack with bishop g5. Now, Tory attack, always annoying, right? I normally play, I don't know, c5, I think is the most dynamic. h6. The only problem with h6 is that it's not really a problem, but you allow bishop takes f6 and e4. And so the game will actually transpose. I would say it upgrades from a Tory attack to a Trompowsky. But honestly, this is not a very good line of the Trompowsky for white. After bishop f6, queen f6, e4, black has a relatively safe variation because this f-pawn is back behind the knight. And the best lines of the Trompowsky are the ones where white can actually play f4. So I think this is quite a fine variation for black. And that's what Richie Smith played. He played h6. White decides to not take, which turns out to be the main move, bishop h4. And now we're going to see, normally black again goes for like c5, but you have options, other options. Of course you can always play d5, but I think that it's not very flexible. I could see d6. Actually, d6 is like a kraken. You're threatening g5 and knight h5, garnering the two bishops. So d6 is interesting. b6 is standard. That's a standard Queen's Indian setup. And then finally, of course, there's c5. Karpov, Salov, 1995. So he played c5. Karpov recommended. And now, very strange move by white. White played bishop h4. Now he's playing bishop takes f6. Like, make up your mind, bro. Who plays bishop takes f6 now? Why now? This is just completely random. So we take with the queen, and e3 is played, which is probably best. White has a lame sort of position, but our queen is misplaced. I would argue that yes, the queen is slightly misplaced on f6. c3 is even lamer than e3. But white's opening is basically, you know, when you open a dictionary and you look up the word lame, you see a position something like this. e3, and then, well, I guess here black probably has a couple options. I said I didn't like d5, but I mean, still d5 is fine. If you play d5, though, you have to watch that white doesn't set up maybe like a stonewall type of thing with knight d5 and f4. Again, d5 is kind of committal, so I would avoid that. But I'm not sure what black's best move is here. I still like fianchettoing, a la Queen's Indian. It doesn't seem like white can do a whole heck of a lot after b6. Yeah, of course, g5. Very, very correct move. Someone here played, Juma Bayev, the Cinderella's teammate, played a6 here. Why not? How bad can a6 be? Praying Mantis versus Juma Bayev, 2025. But I don't really see any definite need for a6. I mean, b6 is fine. So, but it's also okay what black does in this game, knight c6. Okay, so you're not going to be getting an open diagonal for the bishop on b7. Now the ultra boring c3. And so the muted one, as he shall henceforth be known as. Is Mr. Coffee not here today? I guess he's working. I still support b6 as an alternative, the more fluid alternative to d5. No, this is not like anything special white can do. You know, you can still play b6. This is fine. And now white plays bishop b5 in the game in the opening explorer. So this is an Nimzovitchian element of this, where white has like a French with control of e5, but not particularly dangerous version. And the one who shall not be named has played the French before. So d5, knight on bd2, ultra boring with white, bishop d7, bishop d3. So basically a Colley system, where there just isn't a dark squared bishop. The Colley system and the, obviously, Tory attack are relatives. Bishop d6 now. Okay. I am... okay, I'm on board. Bishop d6 is okay. You have pressure on d4. This is important, right? Don't trade. A lot of people tend to trade, and there's no reason you have to trade necessarily. The biggest danger is this. They're gonna like do this, and you're gonna puke. And it's very hard to get anything dynamic. So I think what black does here is probably best. Bishop d6. Even if you lose a tempo, whatever, you know, if they want to open up the position, you're gonna have a good French. Bishop d6, queen e2, and now he finally did it. But I think that black should probably wait with this exchange. You know, you didn't exchange right away. Why are you exchanging now? Is your opponent like a 10-year-old kid and he's going to castle queenside? That's fine. You know, Juma Bayev would just play like a6. Well, yeah, actually what Uber Driver is saying is true. Like, you could play e5, theoretically, but it's sharp because white has like e4. I don't know if I like playing e5 just yet. With my king still on e8, I'm not going to do that yet. I want to get my king away from the e file before I play e5. No, but I think that black should probably consider just castling here. I mean, the obvious move is castles. Am I really afraid he's going to do this and like play g4, g5? Dude, okay. Got me. I mean, then I play e5, probably. And what's he going to do? You know, he's going to play, you're going to play here. You could play here. You're threatening this. You can't play g4 without losing a pawn. And black has to be fine. Castle queenside is bullshit. You know, he shouldn't castle queenside him. He should just play normally. I think that white should either take on c5 or castle kingside. This is like unsound. If you're playing a real maniac, they might do something like that. But I don't like Richie's decision to play c takes d here, because you're going to get this, right? Maybe he had a point, though. I guess he was going to go knight b4. His point is this, probably. Maybe this is... Still, it's fine for white. Like, he can give you the two bishops. Okay, it's not great, but it's playable. It's playable. I mean, the position is closed. This is not a great position for two bishops. Or he can try this. But I can see how this could start to run into trouble. If white has to play a4, he's not a happy camper. Here. So honestly, okay. Maybe c takes d isn't bad. So this is justified. Takes, and now you're fine. It looks like Capablanca playing black. Now your g5 Uber driver. Arsenal's like clearly delaying castling. But I mean, black's gonna have a very fast attack if he tries to castle queenside. He's going against the grain of the chess. Of the chess there. I don't know where we should place our pieces though. You see, Arsenal did rook c8 here. And I suspect that's probably like too routine. Objectively, you want to play like b5, b4 and do the minority attack. So objectively, I say that move too much. The word too much objectively. Maybe rook on b8, you know? If you want to move the rook, put it on b8. Why c8 necessarily? Obviously, black can play a6. And then, you know, if they do a4, fine. Now they're almost definitely not castling. At some point you might want to bring your queen back. But for now it's fine. They can play a5. This could get annoying. Say you castle, they play a5, you go here. This happened to me before. You know, the Vietnamese guy... Nguyen Truong Son. There's, yeah, this is bad. If you let this happen on the queen side where they get this and then they're going like boop boop, black is just worse. Knight a7 woohoo. You're gonna say boo-hoo when a white knight gets to c5. You can trade off your bad bishop, but white has a good position. You know. This is actually better for white. But you might be able to get a draw Uber driver. We don't want to allow that to happen. So probably have to be careful about a6. Rook c8 isn't a terrible move, and he's playing like Asterbait, the old... makes you want to cry now. Now I miss Asterbait. This is his favorite motif, you know, coming back. Castles, okay, castles. Rook fe1, and now he decides to play queen d8. It's funny... This strong, what is it, Romanian woman player, Irene Bulmaga, exact same position, had this against Monica Sacco, and she played queen e7. Queen e7 is a weird move. Wow. I have to say, Arsenal's move, I like better. What the hell is queen e7? Queen e7 is just bizarre. Queen e7? Why not queen d8? Exactly. I don't see any upside in queen e7. The upside of queen e7 is that your rooks are connected, but so what, you know? I guess we should give some credit. There's some justification. The rook's being connected, maybe playing f6, the queen laterally here. Yeah, you're not getting in e5. Reduce 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, the point is rook e8, right? I would think, trying to force this through. But the other thing is the e7 square. You know what? Maybe instead of... Okay, the main point is that white is threatening knight e5. And if we wait, we'll allow knight e5, and then we can follow up with f4. For example, rook here, knight e5. You can take with the bishop. If you try to like go here, then we can play something like f4 with a good stonewall attack. You know, take. Bishop c7. Yeah. So, I mean, these players are not super GMs. They're decent. Monica Sacco is a men's GM. A GM. Not to be sexist. She's a GM. But, an all-body GM. But anyways, nowadays, there's a lot of grandmasters running around who are 2,300 grandmasters. Yeah, this is an interesting debate. What we needed to do, though, I really wish our rook was on b8. She plays queen e7, rook a d1, and then a6. And white goes knight e5. And she takes to the knight. Yeah, but I mean, that's fine for black. As long as white's not taking with the f pawn. D e5, bishop b8. I expected bishop c5. But either way. Knight f3. This is a decent French for black. But black is still not really better. I don't really think that black is better. In fact, the computer thinks that white is better. But whatever. There's more than one way to skin the proverbial cat. Maybe we can give up our bishop for the knight when it comes to e5. And play some kind of decent French with what I want to do is arrange a situation where I can play f6. Well, for example, here rook d1, a6. What if she had taken with the bishop here, I wonder? And then just played f6. This is also pretty much the same slight advantage to white as the other variation. It's an interesting position. I don't know what to do with black here. It feels like black should be fully equal, but oddly, any ideas, anybody? Petro, Castle Queenside. You know, this idea of g5 is not absurd at all. A little bit of outside the box thinking here. I mean, might be a good thing. Like, should we consider king h8? Uber driver? I mean, the first thing you have to remember about the position is that white does not have a dark square bishop forever. Unless they queen a pawn and make it into a dark square bishop. If we play your idea of like doing g5, now this queen can drop back to g7. Okay, white's probably going to play knight e5. That's ultimately the problem. So, I like queen d8. Alright. Anyway, white plays this. I think they should seriously consider playing knight e5 now rather than later. Rook d1, which doesn't really do anything. And now Arsenal play queen b6. I mean, that who does not speak on the stream. Queen b6. You're bouncing around like a bouncy house. Just because you play queen d8 doesn't mean you have to play queen b6. The bouncy house attack. Queen b6 seems sort of bad. King h8. Still a useful move, that king h8. If we get like an acerbate, sort of bishop b1, queen d3, queen h7 mate, Black can always play f5. But I really wanted my queen on g7. So you can go here, g5 right away. Knight e5. White is still better. Wow, the engine has a crazy move. Queen f4. But ultimately it's a close call between queen e7 and queen d8. But I don't like queen b6. You're blocking your b pawn. Knight f1 is a kind of useful move for white anyway. What's he going to do? Knight a5? It's not that queen b6 is terrible. Let's see what he does. Knight f1. Rook f e8. This is weird. Threatening e5, obviously. But it's very obvious what you're trying to do. And now he has bishop b1. So this is the point. If you play e5, which you can, takes, knight takes. Queen is coming to a theater near you at some point. Now, so maybe e5 isn't as great as it looks. White plays knight f1. Having trouble finding a plan for black, though. You can't sit around and do nothing. This doesn't seem to help. Bishop e1, and now knight e7. Threatening bishop e5, but it's a day late, you know. This Irina Bulmaga moves bishop a4. You can block the threats on the diagonal, but it's temporary. So white plays knight e3. And I think this is a rather standardized sort of Tory attack type of maneuver. Black now played bishop b5. But does this make any sense? To do this first? I just thought it might disrupt this a little bit. Probably not a big deal. If you play bishop a4 first, and they go here, then you go here, then they probably go here. Black has moves like bishop f4. But ultimately you have to watch this diagonal with the threats against h7. So I don't know. Knight e7 is a good move. It covers this. But if white plays like h4, h5 or something, you're not going to be able to block that diagonal without playing like f5, which is strategically a catastrophe. Knight e3, bishop e5. If I had more time, I'd like to go more depth in this game. I don't really know about queen b6. You know, I just keep thinking, like, I wish I could have found a better plan. Maybe, ultimately, Sako's queen e7 is somehow better. I don't see anything clear though, you know. This whole plan seems kind of artificial. Knight e7, knight e3, bishop b5, queen c2, knight g6 now. Do we have a threat? It just doesn't look like we have a threat. I mean, white's got h4, h5, and they played h4. Right. Okay, you can come back to f8. Okay. This is cool. You have knight f8. Okay, that works out. You can cover f8. Very good. Well, what's our plan? So you went back to c7, h5, knight f8. We still don't have any way to use the pawns. You know, we need like b5, b4. We just never did anything with our pawns. No e5, no f6, e5, no g5, no b5, no a5, no nothing. The pawns don't play. Now I play knight g4. And white doesn't have any threats. I mean, it's fine and nice that they want to play knight e5, but it's still not a threat. Ultimately, our bishop, though, it got stuck. You know, it's just like stuck. I don't like this. You know, it feels like our position's solid, but we have no plan. You know, and f6 needs to be considered. It's now or never. That's the motto of the Hungarian opposition party. Most vagy soha. Arsenal fan. Now or never. If you played f6, it's true, you could allow like knight h4, but you have queen f7, for example. This isn't really scary. I mean, I don't think that there's that much danger here. Okay, f6 a little bit risky. So he plays f5. The problem with this, though, is after knight e5, I think that white only can be better. So knight e5, and now knight d7. Yeah, now knight g6. He played knight d7. Queen d7. Knight e5. And now black holding off on exchanging there. But that's a strong piece. Maybe you get your bishop back to e8 to cancel out the knight on e5. I think rook f8 was suspicious by black, but it freed up the f8 square, so that was his idea. Here, queen g5. Here, rook f8, bishop d3. And now, it was a draw. But objectively, white was a tiny bit better. Like, I think throughout. I have a question, though. Can you play bishop e8 here? And are you possibly... Is it possible that black's better after bishop e8? Just asking for a friend. Because, like, the obvious move is bishop e2, which allows this. Suddenly, I'm not sure that white is better. I think that white is, like, overextended. It's possible that Arsenal is better when white offers a draw here with bishop d3. Yeah. Trading bishops is probably a mistake. You should play... Oh, this is a funny move. Bishop a4. So that's the best move. Provoke them to go back and then play bishop e8 when they can't play bishop e2. Oh my god. But knight f3 attacking your e6 pawn. You can't give him the e6 pawn. So queen here and knight e5, and it's a draw anyway. No, interesting game. I would go back to that and really look at this position after this g5 fuck. Arsenal fan, look. Here's the moment for g5. While he's farting around with queen e2. You know, black could even castle queenside. But this is an idea that I've used a lot in Nimzo. The the queen falling back to g7. g5 was a star move. I knew there would be like a moment when we would find that actually works. This is better than putting the queen on e7 or d8. You can go back here. Yeah, I saw this. But black has active threats of g4, so white probably has to spend some time on that. And plus we have the bishop on d6. Anyway, interesting game. Okay, I was asked to analyze the following game by Iatan, I think, or was it Redusa? Iatan. Nakamura Sashikiran. Sashikiran was on my Facebook friends suggestions yesterday for the first time in a long time. I don't know why. The algorithm does weird stuff, but lately Magnus has been popping up a lot. But I don't like to friend people I don't really know. I think it's so fake, you know? Facebook friends. Alright, e4, e5. This is an older game, 2012. This was played in the Olympics when Sashikaran was still one of the top Indian grandmasters. So he's playing black against Hikaru in 2012, Istanbul. Knight f3, knight c6, d4. The Scotch, not my favorite. E takes d4, knight takes d4, and now knight f6, which is one of black's best lines. And I guess you would say was one of the two main lines. Knight takes c6. I am not an expert at all, but b takes c, e5 is the main line. I think that the other lines are pretty lame. You know, knight c3 is lame. So this is the only like acid test. And I know like Gawain Jones has played it. Carlson was playing the Scotch for a little while. Looks like everyone has played it once or twice. But I just don't really believe in the Scotch. A lot of simplification too. Okay, queen e7, queen e2, and now knight d5. But what other option is there for black? Knight d5, c4. So there's this h4. This is more new. Do you guys know that? Does anybody know that game where this rook like ends up on a5? Isn't there some relatively recent-ish game where there does the crazy? No, it's a real game, like a crazy. There was some game where black castles queenside. You know, this is always dangerous for black to castle queenside with this type of structure. This is a newer idea, h4. But maybe it's more interesting than the older lines. I don't think it was known in 2012. So c4. Now, the main line traditionally was bishop a6. I always felt this is very awkward for black to play because the pieces are strangely hard to coordinate. But this isn't bad, right? I mean, knight b6 is okay, as far as I remember. Knight c3, and black wants to gain counterplay against his pawn on e5, try to eliminate the pawn on e5. But I want to just say that my instinct is that whatever black does, he's better off trying to castle kingside. And anytime you try to castle queenside in these lines, your king is never like 100% safe with black. So I think that's kind of a risky way to conduct the game. If I'm Sashi Kiran playing in the Olympiad with Nakamura, I'm going to try to play solidly. You know, I mean, I'm not with black against Naka. A draw would be a good result, you know, so this guy should not take any crazy risks. But he does just that. This turns out to be the main move. Topolov Caruana, 2016. Well, queen e6 allows, the bishop to come out. But I was going to suggest g6. There seems to be a problem here. Uh-oh. Women's World Championship 2019, knight e4. There is a problem here, Houston. So obviously g6 is risky, okay? That's why queen e6. But Sashikaran goes queenside. This is also risky. I think ultimately, bishop a6 is probably the best move for a reason. It puts pressure on this pawn, forces white to defend it. This is probably best. So knight b6, knight c3, bishop b7, bishop f4, and the castle's queenside. But this king is not. I don't know. I don't trust it. So both kings a little bit exposed. Castle's queenside. Now g5. This is obviously theory. But actually, if you go back, there's only 2 games that have been played prior. g5 is kind of committal, though. g5 is not what I would characterize as a safe move. The whole method of play, though, isn't the way I'd want my Olympiad board 1 player or board 2 player. I don't remember who was board 1, who was board 2 in 2012. But this looks, for example, a little bit safer than g5. Right? Uber driver g5 is always a good move. Even f6. Sundar Shyam. I like moves that destroy the enemy's center. That's usually a good idea. This move is risky, and it doesn't eliminate this pawn on e5. Here, h5, okay, great. So you weakened your king side. What did you achieve? What has he achieved? He hasn't gained any counterplay. Okay, ultimately black can play bishop g7, stack up on the e5 pawn, but he's weak now. He's weakened his h5 pawn. g4. Black has extended more pawns, just creating weaknesses. Hikaru plays king b1, bishop g7. Okay, that's the idea of g5. We can get another attacker against e5. But watch what happens now. We're actually following a game from 2003. Weenie Warder. I always like that. Queen e3, rook d e8, and Hikaru doesn't even risk f4 because that was played by the other guy. He just simply defends e5 with his rook. So look, we don't have to create any more pawn weaknesses. So what are you going to do? Meanwhile, black's king's sitting there in a ridiculous looking situation. Those pieces look ridiculous, right? Can we play rook h6, rook e6? What do you think? So black plays c5, finally opening up that bishop on b7. That looks like a good idea. But there seems to be a problem. So a4, beautiful move, threatening to drive back the knight on b6. What's he going to do? Play knight a8, Emery Tate? Oh my god, so black has to play a5, it looks like. Which weakens his queenside and allows b5 to become a permanent outpost. So he doesn't want to do that. He does d6 instead. Allows a5 anyway, but the knight has the d7 square. But how does this work? I mean, is black just losing his d6 pawn here? So I figured he can just take. It looks like white's winning a pawn with pawn takes d6. But Hikaru is actually Again, this is an Olympiad game from 2012, 13, 14 years ago. It appears that this is fine. It would allow the queens to be traded. And possibly a set of rooks. But I mean, anyways, white would win a pawn. Black's bishops are very good, though. You know, I mean, maybe a situation where those pieces are active enough to kind of justify giving up a pawn. So Nakamura prefers not to do that. He does knight here, threatening knight takes c7. Knight takes a7. But the obvious question is, why can't black play knight takes e5? Or possibly even pawn takes e5. But I mean, okay, here's why you don't castle queenside in a Scotch. I don't understand Sacha Kiran playing in such a way against such a strong player, you know, with black in Olympiad game. You prepare, but sometimes you lose your sense of objectivity. But I mean, why would you play e4, e5? You know, I mean, that's a solid opening. And then castle queenside in the Scotch. Dude, he's going to get ripped apart by something like a6 here. So knight takes e5. And of course, this is nothing. Like, knight takes a7 check is nothing special. It's possible. Simply play knight takes a7. He moves the king. Maybe we come back. It's a game. This is probably what Sacha Kiran expected. Right? This is the first time I've seen this, obviously. We would expect him to grab the pawn, blah, blah, blah. But here's the point where white makes a not-so-obvious move. He calculates a little bit, you know, more deeply with a surprising move, queen b3. Now remember, white's king is also on b1. So I was thinking that maybe black could get something going with some sort of play against white's king. With like queen d7 or queen e6. Queen e6 or queen d7. Looking at those squares and then countering against the white king. How strong is Nakamura's threats here? I mean, it doesn't look like there's anything that big, right? There's the one big threat. Knight takes a7 check. So if I just make a random move for black, you know, we're going to get knight a7 check, king b8, knight c6 or whatever, and win the queen. But let's say, for example, I go here. Knight takes a7 check, king b8, a6. That's a problem. So this is going to be a problem in all lines. Queen e6, knight takes a7 check, king b8, a6. You can do all the checks you want, it doesn't matter. So, alright. So queen b3 suddenly creates problems. Oh no. And Sacha Kiran can't. He can't solve his problems. How about, yeah, even a6. He could sack the queen, right? Let's say a6, knight a7 check, king b8, knight c6 check, knight takes c6. Rook takes c7, rook takes c7. I mean, how much material do we have here? A rook, a knight, and a pawn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 5, 6. This is good for black. Whoa. Wow. Why? This is winning for black. Oh my god. So what, does this work? I mean, obviously black doesn't have to do that, but let's just say he plays a6. Obvious move, right? First we would take on e5. First we check. But this is funny because this take on e5. Okay, there's bishop c3 maybe. King a7. Bishop c3. Black's winning. Oh my god. So is it possible that a6 is okay? I mean, obviously, like, king d7 is possible in some lines. Damn. a6 is okay. Simply a6. Dude, I'm a genius. I found this. Without the engine. Because all the problems start with a6. This move equalizes for black. It saves the game. If white's knight has to retreat, then he runs out of stuff. You know, he's got nothing. That's it, man. So there's a funny move here. Rook takes e5. I have no idea how that works. But I think I'm starting to get the gist of it. So that, dude, there's a crazy line. Bishop takes e5, knight a7 check. Now he has to go to d7. So this is probably what Sachikaran saw and didn't like it. There's an unbelievable move he has to find. Rook e5. And now bishop e4 check. Ah. Completely saving black. But it's not surprising either, you know, because white's king is also not safe. So, black could have defended this, but instead he played bishop a8, which is a very passive move. I mean, hanging a7 with check, this is insane. You're dead, dude. You're dead. You might as well just resign after bishop a8. This is insane. Can't play that. That's game over, man. Game over, man. Tiger. Tiger. f4, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Queen f6. Knight takes a7, check. See you later. This is why you don't castle queenside in the Scotch. King d8. Bishop takes e5. Rook takes e5. Check. King d7. Check. Whoops. Rook e6. Yeah. I mean, Sachikaran, he should have found a6. There's no excuse for not finding that. I would suspect it's probably a situation where black maybe didn't manage the time very well and didn't leave himself with enough time. It is interesting he got to this endgame, which is almost holding on. He's almost holding on. He has 5 pawns against 5 pawns, but this outside pawn is very strong. Queen d3 check, king a1. There's no way to stop the a pawn. Oh no. Oh no. There's this, right? Oh no. Check. That's not check. Why not queen a5 check? I don't see a mate. So I'm checking and taking the pawn. Black played rook a8, king b1, and went on to lose. Because of this is mate. So is it mate if you check and take with the queen? I don't see that here, although it's probably bad. I imagine queen e4 check. Let's see. Wow, this isn't winning. It isn't clear. It isn't clearly winning. So another really bad decision by Sachikaran. After queen e4, he like has to go queen a5 check. The engine's finding a winning move, though. Why? There is a mate here. Oh no, this is different. The king's on. Okay, no, sorry. The king's on d7. This position. a7, Sorry, a7. So a7's a blunder by Nakamura. a7 was a blunder. And then he's drawing. This loses. So not a really accurate game. All right. Anyway, that was a random submission from Eatan, but I guess he's looking at Scotch or something. But anyways, I think while this is playable, Bishop A6 is just better. But again, Black doesn't necessarily want to castle queenside. I think that's overrated. You know, I really do. Black should play like G6, Bishop G7, and castle kingside. I saw people on my stream doing that, castling queenside. I know that's a classic idea, but it's not really necessary for Black to castle queenside. That's not forced, you know. All right, so let's take a look at a game from the candidates. Let me see. Does anybody have a particular game? And don't tell me Caruana. Don't tell me Caruana Nakamura, okay? Because everybody's looked at that game. Anybody have a particular game that you want to look at? Since I don't cover the candidates games live, I wouldn't mind going over a game or two from the tournament now retroactively. So let's see. Broadcasts. Candidates. In the last round, I'm trying to remember. Sindarov winning with white against Caruana. That's interesting. We could take a look at this. So I'm going to grab this, clone, copy PGN, copy raw PGN. Okay, learn, study, my studies. This is a critical game from the last round. You'd be happy. Okay, the first question, which was asked by Move 11 yesterday, was about this choice of opening by Caruana. D4, D5, C4, E6. Knight F3, D takes C4. You know, a lot of people also will play, what am I thinking of? Okay, well, they'll also do, like, for example, E6, Knight F3, Knight F6, then Knight C3, D takes C4. But this isn't necessarily a Queen's Gambit accepted. When you play C4, D takes C4, you have a pure Queen's Gambit accepted. White has lots of options. I don't know a lot about Caruana's repertoire, but D takes C4, if you look at the opening explorer here, how many games are there? So 38K altogether in the Masters opening explorer, and it's Black's 5th most popular move with 828 games. That's a little odd, right? I mean, this move order has less games than A6, which is very trendy, by the way. A lot of people refer to this as the, this was played against me recently by International Master Adrian Petrosor. But this move is even less common. Well, you're playing the Queen's Gambit Accepted, or maybe you're transposing to a Vienna variation. Depends on what white does. I mean, e4 is critical here. I think that fundamentally, Queen's Gambit Accepted is a kind of risky thing to do because you're trading off your strong point. The normal idea, though, is that you trade off your strong point, you can counterattack the enemy's center. It's not clear the Queen's Gambit Accepted is risky. It's not solid. It's somewhere in the middle. But I'm wondering what exactly is his intention here with this move order. Well, Sindarov just plays very, very safely now. I mean, you're playing a gambit, and if this is like a King's Gambit type, position, I'm thinking e4. A real gambit player is going to play e4. This is the, go for it move. The other move that white can play, though, that's clearly good is knight c3. But it looks like black has some interesting possibilities there, like a6. This move order, actually, look at the score. White's score is very bad. So it does appear like white kind of has to choose between e3 and e4. Knight c3 isn't so great because of a6. So it's now or never. E4 is way riskier. So Sindarov plays e3. Like, I have no idea how much like Sindarov could have possibly been prepared for this. I imagine Caruana plays a lot of stuff. Difficult to prepare for everything. Sindarov, though, seems very like he's a very kind of natural player. He's just quick, and he's like very adaptive. But the one thing I want to draw your attention to is the time use in this game. Because why does Caruana like lose? Well, for me, it's very clear. His time use is horrible in this game. Where Sindarov plays very quickly, almost like it's a rapid game. So watch what happens next. So he plays d takes c4, white plays e3. Normal is knight f6. You could play other moves like c5, maybe a6. Black plays knight f6. It transposes to a normal Queen's Gambit Accepted. White plays bishop takes c4. And so here we don't have a lot of options. Again, black could play a6. That's the only really serious alternative to c5. So c5, and now it's a standard Queen's Gambit Accepted. White castles, but white can also play the Furman variation. I think it's called with Queen e2. But obviously, like, castles is the standard. And then this is important for black now. I don't know how often the Fabiano plays the Queen's Gambit Accepted. But the one thing I want to comment on in this game is the nature of the Queen's Gambit Accepted. If you play a6 and b5 on the queen side, white can undermine those pawns with a4. And oftentimes black has trouble with that, like having some kind of weak pawn on the queen side. So if you want to play like very solidly for black in this position, you would play it as a pure Steinitz variation. You don't play a6. You just play like knight c6 or c takes d4. So the safest way for black to play is just do c takes d4, e takes d4, bishop e7, knight c3, knight c6, whatever. It's like a very standard IQP. The most standard of standard. But it's also kind of dry. Like, black doesn't really have a lot of winning chances, of course. So Fabiano plays knight c6, though, and knight c6, it's a little bit controversial. Because if you want to play a6 and b5, usually in the classical Queen's Gambit accepted type positions, your knight goes to d7 so it doesn't get in the way of this like bishop on the long diagonal. I'm not an expert, but I've had a lot of games with these e3 Queen's Gambit acceptors with white. So I would think a6 is more like the main idea. But with knight c6, he keeps options open to do both things. He can go into a Steinitz with like c takes d, or he can decide to play a6. White now plays queen e2. I had the same position 4 years ago in the Hungarian Team Championship against Slovakian GM Paker. I think we had c takes d4. I played rook d1. He just played bishop e7, and I took back with the pawn. We had an absolutely standard position here after castles. This is totally standard. And it's a little bit passive for black, but it's solid. But instead, Fabiano plays a6 now. So he's like mixing the solid and the kind of risky. Normal move for white now is rook d1. And so this is where things get kind of weird. I mean, did seriously white prepare this variation? Knight c3, an unusual line. The pawn's kind of not really hanging because we can always play rook d1. I think if the bishop were already on e7, black could try to take the pawn, because rook d1 could be met by e5, supporting the pawn. But the bigger problem here is that these pieces get attacked by the oncoming b pawn in a lot of cases. So I suspect the Sindarov is like prepared here. But now black, what can black do? I had games where my opponents have done stuff like queen c7, kind of staying flexible. I had a game with Hertan like that. One of his students as well. I've had games with some strong players like Paco Vallejo used to play QGA. And the thing about knight on c6 is that, in addition to b4, it can also go to a5 sometimes, which happens in this game. And Vallejo, for example, used to like to do that. And if I ever play a4, it kind of discourages a4 because of b4 and a5. I like to play a4 a lot of times. But, okay, he goes b5, and now the really surprising thing is that this is the main move, bishop b3. Now, do you see Caruana So? Caruana So with Caruana playing white. It's like really weird. Because Caruana, he doesn't play d4 a lot, right? Caruana So with white, Nakamura Dominguez with white. I mean, this variation is pretty rare. There's just a handful of games. I mean, they're all strong players. Yeah, that's actually kind of funny, though, when you look at this list. There's 122 games, but they're mostly very strong players. So the really interesting thing is this. Sindarov plays bishop d3. Now, I mean, this is a pawn sacrifice, technically, right? There's a lot of Sicilian... Am I even, like, streaming? Yeah. Wow. There's a lot of Sicilian-like feel to this position because of the structure. Of course, white hasn't played e4. But if I take the pawn... Wow, black is undefeated. Humpy versus Irina Krush, a longtime Queen's Gambit accepted player. Ivan Sokolov against Cifuentes back in 1997. Pawn takes pawn is standard. Pawn takes pawn. I mean, yeah, you don't want to open up this bishop, but look at black's score here. Very solid. Trying to take the pawn, though. Can you guys imagine what would happen if you tried to take this pawn against Sindarov? Well, let's say, like, Korchnoi was black. And he gave him this position now. Like, seriously, is black, like, lost here? Because a pawn is a pawn. Where I come from. I'm a little bit skeptical if this is winning for white. Why can't black grab the pawn? A lot of tempo. Well, that's deep, chess zebra. These guys are 2700 and they can calculate, pretty deeply. It's a central pawn. Of course, there's a lot of tempo, but there's only so much you can do without any pawn play. White has no pawn play. What's he going to do? F4, F5, G4, G5, A4, yeah, maybe. But either you got something or you don't. It looks pretty concrete to me. So apparently he does. Rook D1. It is about A4. The engine says the best possible line is Queen B6, A4, super exclamation point, B4, and now Knight E4. And again, very Sicilian-like position. Knight D5, Bishop C4, Bishop E7, and now very cool. Rook takes D5, E takes D5, Bishop takes D5. I wouldn't be surprised if Sindarov has looked at this because, he's offering a free pawn. All right. Black can play CD4 though. Instead, Caruana plays this, which is fine. And now, most players play Rook D1, but it's not necessary. So white plays instead A4. And here we go. So if you guys check out, there was a game, I think as well yesterday, where Hikaru was black, where white played A4, and Hikaru took. There's this thing. I used to play the St. George with black a lot, and the general rule in the St. George is B4 is the normal thing to do, but the safer thing to do is always take. And when I looked at this with the engine, it didn't surprise me. Well, actually, not just the engine, but also the 3 games where this position has been reached. No one played B4. One player actually played C4, this is by far the riskiest move for black. Anton lost against Rasmus Svane. But C4 is an extremely risky move. You take the pressure off of white center, making the position sharper. And now white center is extremely dangerous. That's sharpening the game, not making it safer. But after A4, I think the best move is actually taking. And Van Foreest has a game here. This is probably from Weikanze, Tata Steel, 2017. Remember when Adiban won the Tata Steel B, qualified for the main event? Some years ago. Van Foreest was very young back in 2017. There's a game here with Rook D1, Hertneck, Klaus Klunt from 1988. That's a cool move. Rook D1, the pawn's not going anywhere. Why not? But anyway, I think this is safer for black, but less ambitious. But this is a novelty, so now B4. And this is where things get really risky. This looks like Sindarov is still in his home prep. But Caruana plays into this sharp situation where he risks his own safety. Knight E4. And I don't know, you kind of have to take it, or I don't know. Black can't just make a routine move here. What about pawn takes pawn? It's probably, I don't know. What about pawn takes pawn? Black has to consider here what? Knight takes E4, pawn takes pawn, and then the move he played in the game, which is Knight A5. But what's interesting, guys? Where is everybody? Nobody wants to watch? I thought people liked the candidates' games. Nobody wants to watch this. So, there's no other games where this position has ever been reached at the master level. It's not that common. By move 10, we're out of book. Right? Let's see on like Lee Chess. There's probably a bunch of games. There are 30 games this position has been reached. But no one great. Pretty random position, honestly. But Caruana goes with the most aggressive move here, knight a5. Threatening knight b3. But he allows his kingside to be damaged with knight takes f6 check. And so the point is, if you take with the queen, there is some kind of problem. Like your queen is getting trapped by bishop g5. It's pretty easy to see. But this is totally willingly let Caruana went into this. But let's check out his time. So Caruana has already spent 25 minutes. And Sindarov just 5. He goes into this like super sharp line. Knight e4. And now he played knight e5 very quickly. Because I would think that you have options here to play, what, knight takes, bishop takes? I don't love that, but what about like c takes? Is this so bad? Well, white will just recapture, I suppose. We transpose. So you can still take and play bishop e7. How bad is it? White is slightly better after rook d1. Yeah, it's kind of a decent IQP for white. So Caruana justified in trying to get more, right? He plays this, knight a5, very dynamic. Knight f6 check, and there goes the king safety, right? He has to play with his king on e8 and these messed up pawns. This is a risky decision by Caruana. Like a semi-Slav type of thing. But he's got knight b3. He has the open g file. The bishop on the long diagonal. A very semi-Slav like position. White just plays d takes c5, which is probably like the computer move. And now knight b3. Hitting c5, hitting the rook, hitting the bishop at c1. And it looks like Sindarov, he's like still in his home prep here. Very strangely, because he plays c6 using almost no time. That's the engine number 1 move. People are even speculating that maybe Sindarov is a computer already. But it's like crazy Bogdan Lalich, who's a conspiracy theorist. Bishop takes c6. And now this distractionary move, which is the point. And it's possible, it's completely possible this is still White's like prep. He prepped this somehow. Knight takes d4, he takes d4. But the point is, it's okay for black. This position is totally okay for black. He has equal position, equal material. He has the g file, queen d5, this. But the problem is, well, where did he use all his time, bro? This is really weird. Watch this. At this point, can anyone explain how Caruana, he spent 20 minutes on knight b3? 20 minutes? Dude, you only have 2 hours for 40 moves. He spent, what, 1/6 of his time on one move? Bro, what was he doing? He's got to be wasting time here. You know, he can calculate pretty well. This is a massive waste of time. Meanwhile, Sindarov's only used 5 minutes for the whole game. c6, perfect move. Bishop takes c6, okay, easy, knight d4 here. Now, the second time. Caruana, in this position, okay, he's got to calculate, like, knight takes a1, right? He probably has to calculate other crazy stuff, like bishop takes g2. Although that looks kind of suspicious. But still, again, like almost 20 minutes on one move. This is insane. Knight takes d4. Yeah, and by the way, Caruana is like leading the tournament. So a draw with black wouldn't be a bad result. Yeah, but I mean, he's still fine. You know, troubles. There's no troubles. Black is fine here. He's absolutely fine. You know what his only trouble is, Chessieber? His time. He's used an hour, and Sindarov's only used 5 minutes. Now they have a sharp position where Black is fine, but it's dynamic. You know, with a very imbalanced pawn structure, and the Black king, you know, in the center versus this king on g1. If both sides had equal amount of time, Caruana's absolutely doing fine here. But what's with these time uses? 20 minutes, 20 minutes. Rook g8 now. g3, he forces this beautiful weakening of the diagonal. This is great. And now he blundered. Now he blundered. I mean, this is it. This is the critical moment in the game. All he had to do was play queen d5. That's all he had to do. Just get his queen to d5 and force white to play f3. But let's go a little deeper, okay? I think the engine says this is actually best, but even queen d5 is good enough, I believe. You don't even need to take the pawn. Queen d5, f3. Now, f5, I believe. Let's check with engine. Okay, white's better here. White's still better here. +1. h5 actually better there. So okay, it's not that easy. The best move was queen takes d4. I think I looked at this earlier with a weaker PC. Black isn't quite equal. I wonder if rook g8 is a mistake. No, rook g8 is good. He should take the pawn. Take the pawn first. And then bishop e3, queen d5, f3, f5, king h1, bishop b7. It's anybody's game. Black's up a pawn, his king's in the center. But this was a mistake, but what was really impressive was from now on, the way that white played the rest of this game. This move is like super move. Bishop c4, stopping queen d5. That's the key. This is very, very strong. But I have a question. What if black takes the pawn now? We have bishop takes c6. Let's check this out. Queen takes d4. Bishop e6, queen e4. Then black's threatening queen e4. So what do you do? Shit. I don't believe it. This is still okay for black. He could have played queen takes d4. Bishop takes e6, queen e4. Why would he not do that? I mean, seriously. This looks completely holdable. Queen e4, bishop e4, bishop e3. Yeah, okay, white's better, but it's no different than the way that Nakamura was getting tortured in the first game. So he plays this. Interesting move. I thought he might be thinking about sacrificing the exchange. They both saw this and thought this was lost for black. I don't really see why it would be lost for black. I mean, they thought this ending was lost for black, but why? I mean, with the queens coming off, it's a whole different game. I don't understand why this will automatically be lost for black. Your bishop's hanging, you have to retreat it. Of course, like, white is better. White's king is a little safer. I guess bishop c4? What's the best? Bishop b3 according to the computer. It looks like black has multiple moves. I mean, this very obvious move, bishop g7. Tying white down to b2. a5, threatening bishop a4 check. But for them to think that black is lost, I mean, it sounds like... I don't know, man. It just sounds like, to me, they're just like spewing out answers for the media or whatever, you know? The problem is, we need them to sit down at an actual chessboard together and have an old school post-mortem, not individually like having interviews with Peter Doggers from chess.com and just saying, like, you know, whatever Hans says. That's bullshit, just talking out their ass after the game. They should have a normal post-mortem. That would be cool, right? That would be very cool to have like an old school post-mortem after the games, because I think they would realize this is far from clear, you know. Caruana just wants to get out of there, you know. He's probably got to answer somebody asking him stupid questions about the game. Just wants to go home and kill himself. He doesn't want to talk about it. Yeah, I was just lost, whatever, it doesn't matter. I was just lost. It's easier for them to both just say, yeah, whatever. I was -1, it's lost. You know, it's like, come on. This is not necessarily lost by any stretch. But after rook g4, I actually looked at this. This is lost. This exchange sack doesn't do anything. So now it's like difficult. It's very difficult to coordinate. So once Caruana doesn't get that pawn, right? Now he has to find a way for his king to be safe. I've been in situations like this, and I admit it's very difficult. But now the a pawn is hanging, so you got your classic queen's gambit accepted problem. And Sindarov just takes it. That's a clear pawn up. King f8, bishop e5, bishop f6. He wants to put the king on like g7. Yeah, now he's like depressed, probably. Black. White's up a clear outside pawn. But apparently, like, I think the engine, you know, the computerized analysis said that Sindarov didn't make like any inaccuracies. You think the computer didn't like taking a6? No, it was like the second best move or something. I think e10, it wasn't the number one move, but it was top 3. You know, it's still good enough. I recall that looking at it with the engine, it wasn't number 1, but it was still up there. Good enough. White's winning after winning that pawn, but it's still a technical exercise. Now bishop c6, trading off the strong bishop on d5. Rook a5, bishop d5, rook d5, and then rook c5, trading off another strong piece. The more pawn pieces we trade, the better. I think with the engine analysis, this was a key point. I think once Sindarov plays d5, it's over. So, but look at the time. He has 3 minutes against 50. That's ridiculous. He could never coordinate. He didn't play well. To be honest, like, Caruana just did not play well. But I don't understand what his intention really was. You know, why play this, like, a6, Queen's Gambit accepted, type risky style if you don't really know it or whatever, you know? Especially when you have a good score. Now it's time to play, like, Queen's Gambit declined, like Hikaru, against the other, like, player who's in good form. Why he didn't play more solidly. So anyways, can Black survive here? No, probably not. I guess he's lost no matter what. But this is a really strong move. This is a very strong move. d5 is beautiful. He rips Black's structure apart with d5. It's a really nice move. Engine number 1. Now e takes d5. I mean, white has this winning a pawn, basically. But now he's created this nightmare structure. Black has lots of weaknesses. Queen f3. This is loose. This is hanging. And then he's like falling apart. It's just over. It's like +5. +5. Crushing. Black has a b pawn at least, you know. But his king is mated now. But anyways, I just feel like Caruana did not play well. And also his time management was atrocious. But, you know, in the opening, I'm just wondering, like, why play this, like, knight c6 and a6? And how bad is, like, okay, it's a rare variation. Look, there's, like, 16 games. But why not take on a4 here? My other question is, why not take on d4? I don't understand why he's like avoiding this. This seems to be fine for black. There's a funny move. Bishop b4? No. Knight b4. Okay. Knight b4. It looks like it's a harmless variation, actually. Think about this for a second. You know, this is Yavikir's prep or whatever. It's a completely harmless variation. Black has no problems. You know, in a handful of games. Only 16 games to reach this position. But I guess the problem is, like, Caruana isn't, like, an expert on the Queen's Gambit Accepted. Why is he playing the Queen's Gambit Accepted? To surprise his opponent, I guess. But I don't know. This isn't that safe. But anyways, what about here? B takes A. I like this move. Hertneck played in 1988. Rook D1. Probably best. All right, anyway, I've got one more thing I'd like to share with everybody. Funny game that I won. Not the whole game, but just the end of my game from last Sunday. This was like the time control. I was white, and it was move 39. Black plays rook f6. Black had a weak pawn like the whole game on e4, and I was like a tiny bit better, but I didn't have enough to win. And so we reached this position where he plays rook f6. If I take the pawn, he plays king e5, and he's doing fine. So it's move 40, and I'm probably going to draw. This is in the Hungarian Team Championship. But my opponent was like angry that I didn't take a draw 20 moves ago, when I'm not going to take a draw against a much lower rated player. So I'm like, okay, there's nothing I can do. I have to play king e2. And if he, you know, trades, we'll see what happens. If my pawn's on a4, it's a dead draw. But he's like angry. It's move 40. And he has like mild time pressure, and he's like 79 years old. And he starts like grumbling and saying, this is a total draw in Hungarian. And before he makes his move, he starts talking like out loud and complaining how it's a total draw. And then he like picks up his rook and does this, you know, rook takes f3, saying it's a total draw. Asking me it's not a total draw. I said, I don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's very awkward. Your opponent makes a losing move and tells you the position's a total draw. I try to be respectful, but I don't think so. Rook takes f3, pawn takes f3. And now he started thinking, and then he resigned without playing more. But it's funny, like, okay, his king is actually more active than my king. But you can't avoid losing here with black. Even though you have more space and you have the ability to put your king, it's kind of unfair, right? You have more space, you have the move, and you have a better king position, and you're lost. Chess isn't fair. I mean, this position isn't fair, right? Black to move and you're lost. What's the moral of the story, you know? Never trade rooks into a pawn endgame unless you're sure it's a draw. Because if he had just traded pawns, it's easy. Okay, I thought I could torture him. Like, check, king d2, and now my rook is starting to penetrate. He can't prevent my rook from penetrating, you know, either to f8 or f5. So he's going to have to play kind of passive defense here. I wouldn't give him a draw right away. But the position, like, should be a draw. I don't think that white can win by force. But it's funny that my opponent played rook takes f3, rook takes f3, e takes f3, king takes f3, and then resigned without making another move. Did he not see that I have a4? Because this is funny, right? If king e6, king e4. So he can play like king e7, keeping like, well, I mean, he can't get the opposition, right? He can't get diagonal opposition. He can't get distant opposition. You know what I was afraid of at the last minute? Is anybody still here? Does anybody care? If nobody cares, I'm just going to leave. Do you guys care? Nobody cares. I was concerned at the last minute that, tell me you're alive. I was concerned. Move 11 just drops in and then leaves all the time. But I had this heart attack when I was walking around that the dude had a4. I was like, oh my god, he has a4. Seriously, I started hallucinating that this move would like save him. But the irony is that it doesn't matter. I just take. And then whatever, you know, king e7. That's the closest he's got to distant opposition. I could take the distant opposition. But since these squares are controlled, I have a better method here, threatening penetration on both squares, and then when he takes the opposition, I go boom, a5. And then pawn takes pawn. Who has the opposition now? So I win by nature of penetration. Then I had another nightmare that maybe there was some way black could play, you know, losing the opposition, but get in and get in fast. Like get in here and beat me in some kind of race. So let's say he goes here, here, king e7, king d5, king f6, king c6, king e5. And so here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We would queen at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's calculate this. King e5, king b6. What's my best move now? Well, I got the first move. Yeah. So I was counting one move too many. King f4. Now what's my best move? King c5 or king a5? It doesn't matter. Well, if I could queen on the queening square a8, right? So here, 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 here. He's queening first. So I can't do that. That's messed up. Why? I don't know. I wouldn't have resigned right away if I was my opponent. Dude, this is complicated. Wow. King a5. King g3. I have to do b4 to win. Oh my god. This is my best move. Probably a winning queen ending. He can't take the pawn because I'll queen with check. So he goes here. I queen. Oh no, b5. Wow. I would have never found this. We would both queen, bro. This is not easy. Oh my god. So is there something better I could do? King, I said what? King e7. But that doesn't work. I could go to f5 there. Okay, that line was flawed. So, king e5, king e3, king f6, king e4. Maybe he has to go king e6, a4, king f6, king d5, king e7, king here, king here. He's a tempo behind now. King e5, king e3, king f6, king e2. Come on, I'm not going to play king e2. That's absurd. That's absurd. King e4, king e6, a4, king f6, king d5, king e7. Yeah, he's got nothing better. Now king e5. Okay, wow. So that's crushing. He has to go to like f7 or even g6. I could just go in here. Oh, wow. There's nothing he can do. Yeah. I just force him back further and further. But I can't believe it. This is a draw. Takes here, rook e6 check, king d2, and now, like, okay, rook e5, rook f8, a4, I think was suggested by someone. The a4 is a neat move because he can take, if he takes, he plays this. And now if I go here, he penetrates in my position, threatening to get on all these guys. But I can't believe he plays this move on move 40. Can't believe my luck. Takes, king takes. But it does seem kind of unfair, you know, like black has just lost here. a4 doesn't help. I just take. It's unbelievable. All right, guys, anyway, I'll leave you with that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow with some blitz and blitz tomorrow. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Tomorrow blitz, Sunday simul. I will see you guys 7 p.m. or 6:30. Simul starting at 7 on Sunday with the classical simul stream. Tomorrow blitz around 12:30, 1 o'clock CEST.